Welcome back to Boston has entered the chat. You are looking live at a tweet from the New England Patriots saying, one day at a time. Flex on them, baby.
New helmet for Gonzalez.
How about Gonzo looking good? He was locked in too. You know, that was a pick six. You could just tell from that look. He read the ball.
Off of Ben Woodridge, not Drake May. We're hoping.
Even if it was Drake May, that's how you learn. Bro, I just watched a doc. No, it wasn't a doc. It was America's Game on NFL Network. You ever seen those?
No.
They do like a 1 hour special on every Super Bowl team for each year.
Yeah.
My son is addicted to these. And there's, of course, a million Patriots ones because they win every Super Bowl. So we're watching them. And it was the early one. I think it was the first one against the Rams. And the defense is saying how, of course, Tom Brady's the GOAT because he practiced against us as a rookie and early in his career. He used to throw picks all the time.
Yeah.
We used to pick on him all the time. We used to talk trash to him.
Oh, yeah.
He would get mad. He would pout. And it forged the GOAT, right? So even if it's Drake May throwing pick sixes right now in May at OTAs, cool, bro. Tighten it up before we get to the season. I'm fine with it.
It's one of those things, like if you have an elite wide receiver, you most likely will have an elite corner because they go against each other every day in practice.
That's
Same thing with the tackle and defensive end.
Good point.
It's iron sharpens iron. If you're going against a guy that's one of the best in the league every day in practice, you get to game day on Sundays, they're a chump to you because there ain't your guy that's on your team. Okay,
so we look at this Patriots defense since we're talking about Gonzo.
Yeah.
We know he's safe. He ain't going nowhere. He's the future, the present, the alpha, and the omega. But there are some people on this defense who could be on the hot seat this season. You better have a good performance or else. I'll tell you one that jumps out to me as we talk about some names here.
Yeah.
Jabril Peppers. Because this is a guy who's supposedly your leader, where we heard this before. But off the field, not so much. On the field, I'm not trying to say he's a scrub, but he's not the best safety in the game. So it's almost a weird kind of year for him in the sense of you better show up and show out and ball and be a leader and make us forget about all the other stuff that happened. And maybe you'll be fine. But if not, if you're mediocre on the field, right? Or you just have an okay season or you're injury prone, or if there's any issues at all, if you get a speeding ticket, you got to be careful off the field because you could be gone. To me, that's the hottest seat on the defense. And that's a veteran guy that you would think would be a Vrabel guy. Although there's no history, but personality feels.
Exactly. Personality's game. He plays downhill. He loves to bring the boom. Like that's everything Mike Vrabel wants. He's fast. He's explosive. He's aggressive. He's a mother effer on the field. He's 30 years old, coming off everything he's dealing with, like you said, last offseason, which he addressed at OTAs as well.
He owns it.
That's a guy that if he can get back to his position of being an in-the-box safety, and we'll see what happens if a Jalen Hawkins takes a leap. If the rookie Craig Woodson ends up being a free safety. They signed Marcus Epps. He sounds like he'll be the guy this year to dominate that 1/3 of the field, basically play center field for the Patriots defense. I look at a Jabril Peppers, I agree. I think the same thing with the Kyle Duggar. He's still playing on that extension. He still has some guaranteed money. This is a guy that was so injured last season, dealing with a bad ankle, just didn't look like himself. I think that's a guy that could be on a hot seat to prove himself. But to me, it's more than what they're dealing with contract-wise, what they're dealing with their age. I just think it's scheme fit. And I see Jelani Tavai as a linebacker that's an odd man looking out. Maybe because he's a good edge rusher. He can be a backup. He could be a third line edge rusher for the defense because he lined up all over. But he's a bigger linebacker. He's an off-ball linebacker. He's more of a thumper. When you bring in a Jack Gibbons to be a guy that's a backup to a Robert Spillane, those are the Mike Vrabel type of linebackers. Rush 4, linebacker cleans up whatever gets across.
Sure.
A Jelani Tavai is a guy that blows up the blockers and tries to free up for people behind him, try to eat up blockers and just, plug the run game that way. His game wasn't the best. He wasn't the best addressing the media, dealing with the fan base. It's just, this is such a tough team to evaluate because there's so much chaos going on around them when it came to the coaching staff. I look at a Jelani Tavai. That, to me, is a guy that's on the hot seat.
Was he the guy? He was on the radio talking trash, wasn't he?
When they got booed, he was like, you
can't
do what we do. You don't know what it takes to do this. Yeah.
It was him.
Yes.
I'm shocked he's still here. I'm sorry.
I'm not.
Why? Because, listen, that was a Gerard Mayo nonsense, and we get it. And maybe he got a pass for that. But, if I'm Mike Vrabel, if I come in and I'm aware, maybe, I don't even know if he's aware, but if I'm aware that happened, I just don't even want that because you showed one time.
Yeah.
I get that the head coach you had at the time was a pushover, whatever, right?
Yeah.
if I'm Mike Vrabel, I've already seen you do that once. I'm not playing those games with you.
But
and
it's
you're not
one
that
time,
good where
but
I
it's-
can't replace you.
But it's one time, but that's what makes Mike Vrabel good. Because he could have came in right away and he could have cut a Jelani Tavai. He could have cut a Jabril Peppers. He could have cleaned house completely.
Good point.
He could have cut a Javon Baker. But he's a man of his word, and he goes, everyone has a clean slate. I don't care where you were drafted. I don't care where you were signed. I don't care about any of that. I want the best 53 guys every Sunday. But if you're really about that, you give everyone a clean slate, and in a way, you know, a second chance, or for him, a fresh first impression. Jelani Tavai messed up, but that's talking with the media in a really difficult season where they're hearing it from all angles. And I put myself in the shoes of the athlete where every week they're getting hammered. Every week they're losing. And football is a tough sport. You practice all week. You get your butt kicked. You get one chance. It's not basketball. You get 2-3 games. It's not hockey. It's not baseball.
Yeah.
Where you get multiple times to play the game. It's practice, and one time a week you get to prove yourself, and they were bad. I give him a pass on those comments. Wasn't the best, but that is a reflection of who Mike Vrabel is. Really and truly giving everyone the opportunity to prove themselves to him.
I might be looking into this deeper than it really is, but that's my job. Hearing you talk about that makes me feel like because of Mike Vrabel's ties to this organization, because of Mike Vrabel's ties to a Bill Belichick, it's easier for him to come in with Belichick guys and make it work. Where, as opposed to, who's a coach we were talking, like a Ben Johnson. If Ben Johnson takes this job, right?
Yeah.
He's going to come in and do exactly what you just said. You're cut, you're gone, you're out, you're cool, you're out, see ya, right?
He did that now with David Andrews, Joe Cardona,
Certain
Jawan
guys,
Bentley.
but it wasn't
Jacoby Brissett, let him walk.
It wasn't a big number of guys.
Yes.
Where, as opposed to like I'm just using
Yes,
Ben Johnson.
yes,
I'm not
yes.
saying him, but a different coach other than Mike Vrabel, they could come in clean house.
You know
I want
who
my
does?
guys.
You know who does that? Josh McDaniels. He's the type of coach that does that.
What do you mean?
He wanted the control when it came. He got to Denver and right away picked up the phone to trade Jay Cutler.
Right.
And he never was able to recover that relationship with the franchise quarterback. He got to Vegas, and 2.5 seasons later, he was fired. The guys were smoking cigars in the locker room.
That's right.
That's the difference between a Josh McDaniels, high football IQ, but not a head coach and not a leader,
well, hold on,
and a Mike Vrabel.
That's not fair. Well, that's true, but that's not fair for this combo.
McDaniels stinks as a head coach.
That's not fair for this combo in this way.
Okay.
Is Vrabel unique in that it's the Patriots? So, for example, if Vrabel gets the Saints job, does he go in and clean house?
No.
So this is a Vrabel personality thing.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's what's big on him, is that he's spoken about building relationships with players. That's where he's grown. And this is a guy that, he's a hard ass. We saw him he was prickly because he was pissed off with Stephon Diggs, right? And you see that. But when you see Mike Vrabel every day, and when you hear him talk every day, you understand, like, he gets it. He opens up every press conference, Karen, what do you got for me?
Yeah.
He understands the media's job. He understands how to build relationships. He understands his job, the player's job. He understands what goes into building a winning culture and just basically getting this car back on the road and just towards its destination of being a respectful franchise.
Sure.
The head coaches that don't understand that, they clean house, and then it's just absolute madness. And the guys that you could bring in, if you're going to be that quick with the trigger and turn on them, they're not going to be as devoted to you in a way. They're not going to just run through walls for you. I know it's the most overused term ever.
Sure.
But they won't have as much vindication of play for you because you don't really care about them. Mike Vrabel cares about his players. He knows it's bigger than him. He doesn't have that ego of, I'm one of the best head coaches in the NFL. He has a humility to understand he needs these players, and how bad this roster was, yes, there's a lot of carryover from the last team. But just because the roster is really bad doesn't mean you cut everyone. These are still NFL players, end of the day. You
know, it almost feels like it's a redshirt year for Mike Vrabel, the coach. Not to say you can't win in a redshirt year.
It's a multi-year rebuild.
Well, but in what you're saying, year one, I'm going to keep the guys I have. Of course, we're going to add guys in, my guys as well, Vrabel guys who play with him in Tennessee. But it's almost like a redshirt year. Why I say that for Vrabel, because I'm evaluating these guys in year one of who are carryover dudes and who can play, who can fit my system, who can't, whose attitude do I like, whose do I not. And then maybe next offseason, you see more of an overhaul, potentially, right? If he likes these guys, great. So that's an I've never looked at it from this perspective. That's why I asked you the question, is it a personality thing? Because I always looked at it as it's unique to Vrabel's relationship with Kraft and this city and this franchise. But if it's if that's Mike Vrabel, then if I'm a holdover, I am doing everything humanly possible to stick around. Everything humanly possible.
This is a head coach that will set up a defense for success. And this is an offensive coordinator that's going to set up an offense for success. If it doesn't benefit you with the Patriots and you're a player, it benefits you down the road to get a contract, to hit free agency, whatever it may be.
That's right.
But this is also a guy, keep in mind, we're talking about a team that has 90 guys on their roster right now. They have to trim it down to 53 when it comes to Sundays, right? 31% of everyone that's wearing a Patriots uniform right now is either a rookie that was drafted or an undrafted free agent. 31%. It's a lot of new faces. So eventually there will be, in a way, a lot of cuts made, a lot of heads rolling.
Yeah.
But you can't come in trigger happy.
Right.
You want guys, because if you're Mike Vrabel too, you want the guys to walk into the building every day focused on football and being a better player and improving.
Right.
You don't want them looking over their shoulder thinking they're going to get cut, thinking they're going to get called into the GM office at any given moment. You want them to focus on football, and then yes, eventually it becomes a business. When we bring up guys like a Jelani Tavai who didn't handle the media well in that time.
He's a Vrabel dude, though. The way he plays, the way his attitude is. I didn't love the media shots.
Where I go is a Keyshawn Boutte or a Javon Baker. Javon Baker, obviously, his comments he made when he was drafted him, people in wheelchairs stand up, whatever, that's a wide receiver.
We just roll our eyes.
You couldn't even get on the field on Sundays. You couldn't even be active. For a Keyshawn Boutte, multiple times saying to the media, yeah, I told the offensive coordinator to throw me the damn ball, and they eventually did, and that's why it happened. Dude, you do not sell out your OC like that. One of the only good assistant coaches on that staff last year, by the way. Keyshawn Boutte, who are you? That's not respecting the team.
Sure.
That's not respecting the offensive coordinator, the head coach, whoever.
Right.
Those are the guys, to me, that are more on the line of on the hot seat. A Jelani Tavai, one big mess up, still a good player, versatile in his alignments.
Yeah.
And you need to figure this team out.
Who do you think, because both of us think this defense is going to be improved. I mean, it's not much, nowhere lower to go. It's only up,
the worst in the league.
Who's sort of the X factor outside of the obvious, a Gonzo? But who do you sort of look at as in this new Vrabel world? Schematically, we know what he likes to do. Who could maybe pop and have a big year? I know we're talking hot seat, but who's sort of an X factor who could shine in this new system?
I think it immediately goes to a Christian Barmore, how available he'll be in that interior pass rush.
Sure.
For him and Milton Williams, I want to go away from that. I look at a Keon White because that's a guy that can line up. Again, I'm talking versatility on the defensive line. He's a good pass rusher when he lines up in the B gap and can line up outside of a guard, outside shoulder, right?
Yeah.
He can blow up the middle of the pocket. He's also lined up on the edge. He could be that rover, in a way, an off-ball linebacker, just play everywhere. But at 290 pounds and just sheer muscle and the strength he has, that guy can be such a dangerous player along the defensive line and really in the front seven.
Yeah.
He was good as a rookie. His second season, he struggled. And he came out and said, I'm not being put in the right position. I want to be coached the right way. I want to be challenged. I want to be coached hard. But the way I'm being coached right now is not working for me. And you know what? If you don't want to use me how I should be used, that's fine. I don't care. I don't want you fired. I want me somewhere else. That's what he basically said to the media last year. He's really smart, works really hard, very talented. He has everything you want, all the intangibles of a football player. I think he's an X factor because he could be that starting edge rusher. He could be that second line interior pass rusher. He could be a guy that helps that defensive line win at the line of scrimmage.
I like Harold Landry.
Yeah.
I mean, he should be fully healthy now. He knows Vrabel's system.
Yeah.
You're talking about Barmore and those guys up front and Keon.
Still got to wreak havoc on the edges.
Yes, sir. He's got monsters up front. I think he'll be just fine.